that's Kevin D. Williamson, but just as a slight bonus, I want to turn to his colleague Jonah Goldberg, who gives, and this is an example.
Another hard scrabble son of toil who brought himself up purely by his own talent.
I can't believe we've actually never done. I don't think we've ever done Jonah.
No, we haven't.
No, we have not. Astoundingly,
we roasted him a little bit on the Bill Corbett episode because he showed up in Dinesh D'Souza's movie about Hillary.
So you guys remember Jonah from the Bible? He got swallowed by a whale. This is kind of the exact opposite.
It's amazing because Jonah is I think the greatest right-wing fail son.
Yeah.
Maybe the greatest right-wing fail son. Is unlike Kevin, has all of the same beliefs, is exactly as sort of callous and incurious, but has none of even the slightest bit of flair and is just writes every word just landing just a little fart in his hands. So Jonah Goldberg is, of course, reacting to the sort of the clip of Jimmy Kimmel, talking about his newborn son's health problems and connecting it to this awful AHCA that went viral and became a huge sort of moment in the last weeks. And basically, again, people are feeling an innate sense of revulsion and anger over the cruelties inherent in the AHCA. Jonah Goldberg's job is to find something wrong with that and promote rotten right-wing healthcare policy. So he's going to find a weird way to do it. And he does it in the title, The Dangers of Empathy. It can distract us from rational thought and meaningful compassion. Jonah is going to open up by talking about his own sad story. He says, just over 14 years ago, my daughter almost died minutes before entering the world. My wife had to have an emergency C-section. The whole thing was harrowing. Someday I'll tell the whole story.
His wife had an emergency cesarean and he had an emergency Caesar salad.
He says, someday I'll tell the whole story, not now because I'm not a good enough writer. Because of that experience, and simply because I am a father, I could empathize with late-night host Jimmy Kimmel's story about his son's birth.
That's dangerous.
He's already flirting with disaster here.
I don't like this story.
Yeah, he's walking on thin ice, or really, that's any ice that Jonah walks on. This is the most fat jokes I've ever done in an episode.
And he goes, empathy is different than sympathy or compassion. Sympathy is when you feel sorry for someone. Compassion is when you do something about it. Again,
that's not the English language.
We're going back to the same house style of the National Review. Define words if you ever need to pad out column space. And the move he does here is that he finds the work of some, as he describes him, a liberal sociologist or researcher, someone who researches the brain. And this is another little thing. He references the fact that, did you know that you can see parts of the brain light up when people experience empathy?
I, too, am a student of the brain and psychology and success.
Yeah, according to psychology, damn it's true facts. People with empathy are less likely to be honest, procrastinate, stay up late, swear, and are always fake and love drama.
Did you know that when you think about someone you love, they're 100% chance that you're thinking about you too?
Yeah.
So he references some, for at least for the sake of argument, I'll pretend not spurious social science, or I'll at least grant him that he's interpreting the work of this guy correctly and hasn't just sort of tossed off something very, that he read and half remembered.
Doubtful.
But this is where he gets on here. He says, many people, when some people think about empathy, they think about kindness. I think about war, Bloom writes. He's got a point. Look at the Middle East today. Sunni nations empathize with the plight of suffering Sunnis, and that empathy causes them to further hate and demonize the Shiites. It also causes you to do the same, Jonah. Many people around the world empathize with the Palestinians. Again, there's another big problem for Jonah.
Hate that.
But he says blinding them to the legitimate concerns of the Israelis. And vice versa, he adds, quite charitably.
Concerns about Israelis, where are we going to throw these white phosphorus grenades if we don't throw them here?
Here's where it gets really good. Adolf Hitler was a master of empathy.
Uncontroversial.
Okay.
Yawn.
Okay,
A master of empathy for ethnic Germans in the Sudetenland, Austria. The cause of nationalist empathy for the German tribe triggered profound moral blindness for the plight and even humanity of Jews, Gypsies, and Slavs.
I just want to. All right, so I'm assuming, since this is about healthcare, that the Jews in this are health insurance executives.
Exactly what I've been saying.
Matt, I don't even think it's that connected at all.
He doesn't tie it back to
no,
the
he
actual
doesn't.
fucking
I don't think he
subject?
does. I think he's just talking about the dangers of empathy, which in his case means the empathy for one racial group and the hatred of all others.
As the way we all understand empathy to me. Very selective empathy for a racial cadre. And that's the way we all think of it. At least that's the way he thinks of it. Well, this just shows, like, when you get to something like healthcare and you see just how savage and idiotic it is. I mean, not only does it leave people out in the lurch and dying of untreated illnesses, it costs more than it does anywhere else. It doesn't even make rational sense. Like, you can't even make the rational case for it. So these guys, when they're pressed on it, they just panic and like shoot a bunch of squid ink and then just like hope that you get lost in the fog of it. So you're like, you know what? I thought that single payer was sort of a moral and frankly fiduciary duty, but now I'm worried that it'll make me Hitler, I guess. I don't know. Where am I? I smell toast.
Yeah.
The squid ink in this piece is defining words, giving like a 5th grade level introduction to Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust. And, with a patina of sort of research done by a real scientician. So here he goes. Jonah continues here. Human beings are naturally inclined to sympathize and empathize with people like them. There has never been a society where people didn't give priority to helping family and friends over strangers. Just stating just the most banal observations
that's
imaginable.
true according to brain psychology.
Yeah, he's reading like Google psychology facts.
This tends to blind us to the suffering of those we do not or cannot empathize with. Empathy is biased, pushing us to the direction of parochialism and racism. Again, this is hilarious coming in the pages of the National Review.
And it's about healthcare, which is about people you don't know writ large.
Yeah.
So what? I don't even know where he is now with this.
I don't know
there'd be
where
like an
he-
Adolf Hitler, but he's Hitler for people with cancer.
Wait, guys, bear with me here.
You're right. I'm sure it's going to come together.
Look at the intractable debate over the phrase Black Lives Matter. The slogan itself is kind of a spotlight, argue supporters, highlighting the legitimate complaints of African Americans. But it also blinds them to why others respond to the term by saying all lives matter. I don't go as far as Bloom. That's the researcher or scientician whose work is, I'm sure he's bastardizing here, in detesting empathy.
After all, it's done great things like look at Hitler in the Sudetenland.
He said, I don't go as far as Bloom in detesting empathy. Again, I don't think Bloom really detests
This is
empathy
Alan
here.
Bloom,
yeah,
probably.
Alan Bloom. Yeah. It's Leopold Bloom, actually.
Wow, shit.
Another person Hitler didn't have empathy for. It seems to me not only natural, but also defensible to give priority to figuratively kindred people. England is a lot more like America than, say, Singapore. That's similar.
So wait a minute. So, I mean, he can't be speaking about anything other than racial solidarity, right?
I think that's basically what he's getting
come
to.
on.
That similarity.
That's what he's talking about.
That similarity has forged a long and important bond, both formally, e.g., treaties, shared institutions, and informally, in terms of emotional and cultural bond. If England were attacked, our empathy for its plight would inform our response in ways that I think are important and useful. It would
And
also
racially motivated.
Yeah, I thought that was bad.
yeah.
I thought having empathy with other people to go to war on their behalf was bad and Hitler-like.
Again, the goal here is to get people to be like, Jimmy Kimmel's story about his infant son is bad. You shouldn't feel sympathy for him or other people like it. I'll tell you why. But what he does is just do this 2-step back and forth where he doesn't say anything. Empathy. Is it good? Is it bad? A feeling of many contrasts. And then doesn't say anything.
Jonah would do the maze on the back of like a fucking children's placemat at a restaurant and like get scared midway through that he's all actually lost in it.
Now we get to the money graph here. But where I agree with Bloom is that empathy alone is dangerous and can distract us from rational thought. Which brings me back to Jimmy Kimmel. His story about his son aroused a riot of empathy across the nation. A riot of empathy.
All those broken windows from empathy and motorists pulled from their cars and stomped from empathy.
Crystal knocked of empathy.
Paul Ryan and the authors of the AHCA are like the Reginald Denny of this outbreak of empathy in America. So Kimmel used that response to make an argument about healthcare policy that was largely devoid of any consideration of the facts, trade-offs, or costs of what is the best way to deal with people.
It's cheaper, you cocksucking motherfucker!
I thought Jimmy Kimmel was talking about the trade-offs, like, are we going to have for people with pre-existing conditions to be have health care? He was largely wrong on the facts. Babies with dire medical conditions are covered by their parents' insurance. What if they don't have insurance?
All parents have insurance.
Oh, wait a second.
You didn't know that?
And when their parents are uninsured, doctors don't just let the baby die on the table. Oh, phew.
That is a load off.
They let them go home, and then they let them die at home.
Yeah, by the way.
And that's literally true. Lots of the parts of this country have fucking third world level child mortality rates because all of this vaunted free healthcare that people keep talking about, it means you got to revive someone if they're dying in front of you. But then you send them home. If they die at home, they're not your problem anymore.
I love that Jonah took the time to reassure his readers that doctors don't just let babies die on the table.
Yeah, are all his readers 9 years old?
Yeah, this is incredible. He's just telling
Doctor is a special type of, it's above a nurse, first of all. And
Can I also just say, I guarantee somewhere in the pages of the National Review is an editorial calling for repeal of the bill that requires doctors to treat the
almost certainly.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Almost certainly. He goes, and then he goes back again. He does another shuffle here. That doesn't mean there aren't inequities in the system or that the current healthcare regime is anywhere close to perfect. But it is very difficult to have a rational discussion about the trade-offs inherent in any healthcare system, including socialized medicine, where all anyone can think about is the ordeal of a newborn baby and his loving parents.
it's literally
What
always
else
better.
would people be thinking? Should people be thinking about other than actual human suffering and life and death? What should they be thinking about?
I don't know
Aetna's
why.
bottom line, you fat fucking twat.
Why should we be thinking about health in a healthcare discussion?
He doesn't even mention any of the trade-offs that he's supposedly talking about here.
That's
Because
just
it all ends up being, as you said, Edna's bottom line. If you revealed what he wants to caution against, what he wants to caution against is reducing profits of insurance companies. And if he put it that way, everyone would say, oh, well, fuck them.
That's a lot of words just to say, don't think about the baby. Just don't think about the baby. This is the best they got.
And he opened the article with "Think about my baby," not Jimmy Kimmel's.
Yes.
One day I'll tell the story once someone actually asks to hear the story.
But, we mentioned that Jonah was maybe one of the greatest fail sons of the right. I don't know. He's in the conversation with John Podhoretz, definitely.
yeah.
I think Podhoretz is a little bit above him. He's the thing about having to be pulled away from
He
the
is a
TV.
better writer. I mean,
Yeah. He's a better tweeter too.
Yes.
He's
Town and Country.
Yeah.
2016 top tweeter.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, Jonah's mom is Jonah Goldberg, who is a very, very early right-wing blogger, early sort of Matt Drudge style, who just had a news aggregator site that literally just collected links about crimes committed against white people by street thugs and gangs in the inner city. But she was also most famous for being Linda Tripp's friend and close confidant who recorded their phone conversations and encouraged Linda Tripp to tell Monica Lewinsky to save the famous blue dress.